We read last week in our Sunday message about Paul on Mars Hill, how he had amazing courage as he shared, as he looked up at Athens and the Parthenon and had this incredible sense of God's goodness and strength within him. But verse 32 of chapter 17 says, "Now when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked him." The word used in the original Greek means to pick away like scavenger birds for scraps of truth or participation. They were using an intellectual term to say that Paul was an idiot, that he couldn't be taken seriously. Nothing could have been more of a jab for somebody like Paul, who was keen of mind, well-educated, multilingual, adaptive in culture, and yet they took him on. He could have given up. He could have decided that it wasn't worth sharing. He may not often have seen the results that he wanted to see, but he knew enough to understand that God is working even when we don't see the results. I think about how Stephen was sharing his faith when he was martyred and Paul looked on, and how later Paul tells about that event and how it impacted him and may have even played a part in his conversion. What's the point? The point of the discussion is to say that God is still faithful even when we don't see the results. Look at verse 33. "So Paul went out from their midst." He left at that time. "But some men joined him and believed. Among them also were Dionysius, the Areopagite." So he is a member of the ruling council, the court on top of Mars Hill that had incredible power and had bought into the gods of Athens in his generation. And then he says, "and a woman named Damaris and others with them." Paul had this incredible impact even though people mocked him and said that he didn't know what he was doing. There's a lesson for us here. Our part is obedience, and the results get to be left up to God. God is fully responsible for the consequences of your and my obedience. I love that thought. So Steve Carter, when he was here, you might have remembered, he said, let's celebrate our invitational failures, not just the successes, or we'll become discouraged, because it takes far more invitations to get somebody to the point where they're ready to receive Jesus, maybe even years later. Paul talked about that term, and he said one person plants, one person waters, and another one gets to yield the harvest. That was the case so many times in the first century, and so it is in ours. So, courageous friend, let's be people that are obedient to share the hope of Jesus with the Spirit, of the prompting of the Spirit, I should say, every time we're given the opportunity. I mean that. Every time. When we think the Holy Spirit has opened the door, let's be faithful to share as best as we can, maybe not getting it perfect every time, but believing that God will use it in our lives. I've seen it so many times, and I believe that if we'll obey Him, we will see in time a harvest of righteousness. Don't believe that change isn't happening. As Reuben Welch, used to say, when nothing is happening, you can be sure something is happening. I'm Pastor Tim. This is our journey through Acts. God bless you.